Hello everyone and welcome to another day of painting with Pastor Tina. I'm so glad you're here to join us, and today we are going to be painting our finger painting fish. And we're going to use our fingerprints to print a lot of the scales on the fish, so it'll be a lot of fun. Just if you need to get a few supplies, I'd like to let you know what those supplies are, just to make sure you're ready to get started for today. Now, this would be a great day to have a plate. I know other days we've used little cups, but the plates are going to be great so that we can stick our fingers into the colors and use them well. And because we are sticking our fingers into paint today, having some paper towel is very important to make sure you can clean your fingers between colors, and also so that you don't get a mess everywhere in your painting space, or if you forget somewhere around your house. You want to keep your hands clean. Also, we're going to need our paints. So today I have red, I have black, white, blue, and some green today. Some of you may be using purple instead of green. And you can use all kinds of different color options, so you're welcome to get creative with this one. We are also going to need a marker. At the end, we'll add some details. We also have some little lids here. So this one came off of a Gatorade bottle, and this came off of, I think it was a mango drink that we had. You can use water bottle lids. There's several different types of lids that you can use. And I picked two because I like having different sizes. We're going to use them for our bubbles. And you see some of my bubbles are different sizes. You're going to need some paint brushes as well. For this one, having a bit of a smaller brush will be important. And we're going to use a pencil to sketch the outline of our fish as well. Also, you're going to need a piece of paper. So for today, I have pre-painted this one a light blue color. And if you ordered a kit with us, you would already have that. You could use construction paper, or if you'd like, you could put your fish right onto white paper. So there's lots of different options you have there. And the neat thing when we're creating art is everybody's artwork is going to be very different and unique. So now that we have all our supplies, one more I forgot. We will be speeding up a little bit of drying again today. So we do have a hair dryer. And if you don't have a hair dryer, you can just pause the video at those points. So I also have a googly eye here too, so you can do that. But we're going to try to paint in the eye. If that's a little bit difficult, I thought this would look kind of fun to have a googly eye on the fish, and you can use that as an option as well. So I think we're ready to get started, and the first thing we're going to do is paint our bubbles. So you're going to need your caps as well as some white paint. So the first thing you'll need to do is put a little bit of white paint on your plate. And we're going to start with just a little bit there, a cap full. We are going to have to move it around a little bit. It needs to be bigger than the cap when we move it around. So spread it out just a little bit here. And I forgot to mention, you will need a cup with water for your brushes so that they don't get all dried with the paint. But now that we have our white on the plate, you're going to take your lid and make sure the whole outside is covered in the white color. And pick some spots on your canvas and just dab them. I would suggest you keep them near the edges because we know we're going to put a fish in the middle. And I've seen some people do paintings like this and they have put lots and lots of bubbles. You can see there it's important to protect your space. This is a space that I can get dirty just because you could go over the edge. and it's kind of nice when you have some bubbles going over the edge. And if you're not getting a full circle, you can turn it a little bit. Mine kind of dripped a little bit there, but that's okay. Every bubble is different and unique. And if you need to, just dip your lid in your paint again. And I'm going to put a few smaller bubbles on here. So move it around. Make sure you've got lots of paint. I could have used maybe a little more, but I can still work with this. Just overlap some of your bubbles, just like that. And I tried painting these bubbles by hand before, and you can do that too, but I found these gave me some really nice circles. And even if you do get some bubbles in the middle, just a little bit here, we will be painting over top of them, and that is okay if you put some bubbles in the middle. And I think that's enough. I have a little drip here, so I'm gonna try to fix that a little. And I already have paint on my fingers, so it's good that I have some paper towel nearby to clean off my fingers. Now this is where we need a smaller brush once you have all of your bubbles. So you can fix up some of these if they're dripping. If you are painting on a flat surface, you probably won't get dripping and you should be okay. But because I'm painting upright, that's why I have a little bit of dripping. There we go. Now you'll see in my bubbles, some of them are harder to see on the screen. So this one right here, I have a little white spot here. And the reason I have a little white spot is because if you look at a bubble, you see that light shines off part of it because bubbles aren't flat, they're a sphere. So we're going to decide where the light is coming from. I'm going to decide it's coming from that corner. So for all my bubbles, I'm going to just put a little line, very tiny line on that side of all of my bubbles. So just go through all your bubbles like that. And it will make them look more three-dimensional. So there you are. All of your bubbles now look three-dimensional. This one was off of the top, so mine would be kind of up off the edge, so it didn't get one. And there you are. Now, before we put the fish on, we do want to give it a little bit of a dry. So I'm going to take my hair dryer and see if I can harden those in place. And when you're using your hair dryer again, make sure you're moving it around so it doesn't get too hot in one spot. And if you're using crafter's paint, it should dry fairly quickly. And it's a little bit wet here, but I know my fish isn't going to be near that area, so that's okay. And this one is a little bit wet too. But it's mostly dry, and I think it's okay to move on to our next step. And our next step is to get an outline of the fish. So if you want, you can just draw a bit of an oval in the center. But I thought something that we have that we could use is you could trace your hand if you wanted to get kind of a oval-ish shape. Now, if it's not perfectly oval, that's okay because we're going to end up putting a fin on the top and some lips on our fish. And we're going to have our fingerprints just outside some of the edges here. So I'm going to bring this together here and round it out just a little bit. And I did that really lightly so that I know where I'm going to work, but I don't really want it to show through the paint. So it's just a guideline for us. If you would like, you could also add kind of so you know where your tail is going to be, and we know we're going to do lips, but you don't have to draw the lips on just yet. So next, we need to choose what colors we're going to work with on our fish. So I think we know we're going to have red at the very front, so make sure you don't choose red. It should be some color other than red. And we will start with some blue today. And I'm going to put some white on here as well, because after I do a row of this kind of blue, I'm going to mix and make a lighter blue. So we're going to start with our first row. And for me, when I'm working with my canvas, when I make a fingerprint, I want them to be lengthwise. So going in this direction on our fish, and not the long way. Maybe you'd like it the other way, but because I am going to work with it lengthwise, I'm going to turn my canvas sideways to work on it. So you get your finger with the paint on it, and we're going to make our first row. We're going to put 3 dots is probably pretty good. So 3 dots in a row, and then we're ready already for our next color. So you will need your paintbrush here so that you can mix your colors, and because we're switching to another color, you have to wipe off your finger. And now we're going to make a lighter blue. And just mix that around on your plate, and there you see it should be fairly solid before you're ready to move on. And then we're going to do a row of a light blue scales, and now they have to start a little bit further out than your last row, and because you're going to mix in with some of your other scales, you may need to dab between every single time that you put your finger on your canvas. Next, I would like to, I think I'm going to do some white ones. So I have white on here already. I've already cleaned my finger off so that I could move on to white. And just like that. Again, going out a little bit. And if you can see your pencil, it should be, you should be going just outside your pencil line, because we want to cover that up completely. And again, you can see sometimes the paint comes off, so you gotta get a bit of a fresh dab every time. And just like that. And it goes over the bubble a little bit, and that's okay. So I really liked this green I had here, so I think I'm going to go for green. Oh, it's got a protective seal, so I'll take that off. Oh, it's a really nice green. I think it's called teal. So we've got quite a bit on there, but again, we want to be careful and dab our finger. You can always do a test dab just to make sure you like it before you use it. And again, we're going a little bit wider on the edge of our fish again. Another dab, and we'll go all the way across our fish. And there we have our next row. Now I think I would like to go back to the dark blue, so you can reuse colors if you'd like to, or keep mixing. So I'm going to do, now I'm at about the center of the fish, so my rows are going to be close to the same width as the one above. So just like that. And one of the things I like about this particular project is we are using our fingerprints, and they are a very unique part of ourselves, so unique that people can be told apart by fingerprints. Sometimes if there's a crime scene, they'll check fingerprints and they'll be able to know who was there. And if you do look closely at your own fingers, you can see that every single fingerprint is different, even on your own fingers. And God made each of us completely unique, just like all of those fingerprints are completely unique. So I'm going to keep a pattern going on here, and I'm going to go with my light blue again, and it's already mixed so I can work with it right away. You'll see I dripped a little bit of paint here, or maybe you can't see it as well on your screen, but I'll be able to cover it up, and that is okay. So I do love how our fingerprints are all unique. Our artwork is all going to be unique. And I do hope that some of you will share your artwork with me. I'd love for you to send that to me. My email is tina@westviewbaptist.ca. And I'd love to see all of your unique pieces of artwork. So there we are. We have another row, and I am ready to go back to white. I don't have much white left, so I'm going to add just a little more on my plate. And there we go, another row on its way. Decided not to use pink this time. I thought that green was really nice and matched well with the blue. So you can, again, pick any colors that you would like to. And you'll notice here my row is starting to get a little bit thinner because we're moving the body inward. So there we go, the next row, and we are back to green. And again, I moved it inward just a little bit. So that it's a skinnier row and it will have fewer fingerprints. Just like that. And in between every color, remember to clean off your finger, and then you won't mix your colors. Now I am back to the dark blue, skinnier row again. And I noticed I have a little bit of pencil showing there. So I just want to do my best to try to cover that up. I'm back to the light blue. I don't have as much left, so if you need to mix more, go for it. I'm going to hope that I have just enough. It's a skinnier row, so hopefully I do. And there we go. Now I need a tail. So this was the front end of my fish. This was the back end. And I would like to have a green tail on my fish. So here, if you would like, you can use your fingers, but you could also use a paintbrush for this. If you do use a paintbrush, you will get a sharper line, but if you use your fingers, you'll be sticking with keeping this very focused on finger painting. So here I have my green, and when you're painting your tail, we're just going to do 2 lines out here to start, like that. So my fish is sideways, and it just looks like it's standing on a bit of a triangle. But then we're going to fatten it up. So we're going to kind of do a little line around the outside and make it look like a leaf. So yours may be a different color that you've chosen, but because mine's green, it made me think of a leaf right away. And then on the other side, kind of like a leaf as well. And then you can fill it in, but that just helps us get the shape that we're looking for. And it's kind of funny because I made it this way. When I look at it, it almost looks like a pineapple if I were to flip it over. So there we go, a green and blue pineapple, but we're not done just yet. So once you have your tail there, you might want to turn your canvas because we're going to do the top fin next. And I would like my top fin to be green as well. So I'm going to imagine like, you know, in the movies, if you see a shark's fin sticking out of the ground, or sorry, out of the top of the water. And we're just gonna start with a triangle, just the top of a triangle. And if you want, you can arc the edge just a little bit like this one up here and make it look like it's swimming quickly through the water. But when you put that triangle in place, it will help you know where you want to start coloring in. So then color in your fin. And I've gone over top of some of my fingerprints there just a little bit because you'll see the fin should come down just a little bit into the body of the fish. Now, my next step are the lips. And I'm trying to decide, would I like red lips? I'm not sure they would match as well. So I think I'm going to give him some green lips. Let's see how that looks. So if you want, you can get creative. I know everybody's fish is going to look different. Now again, I do need to put this sideways. But when you put your fingerprints on for your fish lips, you, instead of putting them on straight, you're going to angle your finger just a little bit. So for the bottom lip, you want to angle out just a little bit. And for the top lip, you want to angle your finger a little bit the other direction. So it looks like both of the lips, one kind of like ours. One lip goes a little up and one lip goes a little bit downwards. I actually like the colors of that fish. It turned out really well, I think. Now the next step we're going to have to do is to dry it up with our hair dryer, because if we're going to do any of our next steps, they will be difficult to work on the wet paint and our colors might blend together a little. So if you have a hair dryer, grab that. If you do need to pause the video, you can. And you can also wave your artwork around in the air, but this has thicker layers of paint. So just beware if you do wave it around, be very gentle because the paint colors can move around. So let's dry it off. And move your dryer back and forth. Don't let it get too hot in one spot. We're going to need to use our hair dryer just a little bit longer for this layer because the paint is quite thick. And as the paint dries, you'll notice that it's not quite as shiny. And that's one of the ways that you'll know if it's dry. You'll see the shine disappear. So I can see my tail and my fin are looking quite good. But some of the spots with my fingerprints were thicker, and I need to give them more time to dry. Now, if you go over your painting, you can check them, but be very careful because if it is still wet, you will move things around. I can tell it is still a little wet there. And I'm testing spaces where I'm going to put my marker, because whenever you use marker, you need to make sure that the surface is dry, because if you use your marker on a wet surface, the marker could stop working. So it's a little bit there. And I just noticed I forgot to paint on my other fin, and some of you may have noticed that ahead of time. So I am going to quickly paint on that other fin, but because it's going to be a thin one, thin layer of paint, hopefully it dries quickly. So for your fin, you find the center point and you're going to make kind of another leaf there. And I chose to do green again. But you kind of would be missing the tip of your leaf here to show that it's coming out of the fish, just like that. And I suppose it was actually better to wait to do the fin because it would have mixed in with the finger paintings prints that we had on there. So it's dry enough now to do that part, but we are going to have to dry it more, and then hopefully we get some of these other spots that weren't quite dry just yet. I think it's looking quite good, except for I have just one spot here is still looking a little bit wet, but there are some areas that I can work on. My fin is looking good right here, and I think we can start working on that. But we also need to do the eye. So unless you're choosing to put a googly eye on your fish, and I put a very large one in the kit if you did order a kit, you will need to paint in a white spot for the eye. And so just a circle here. And I'm kind of lucky my roe was already kind of white, so I don't have to paint much. So there we go. And I accidentally found that this spot wasn't quite dry yet either. But if I dab it a little, I can smooth it out, and that will be okay if you happen to touch a spot that was still a little bit wet too. Now we're going to give it one more quick dry because we added on that eyeball, and then we'll start looking into using our marker. And even though it's just the eye we painted, we still want to move our hairdryer around the canvas because we don't want it to get too hot in one spot. So there it is, nice and dry now, and I can work with that. So the next step we will do is our outlining, and we will start with our fin at the top. So just go near the edge, and you can see you've got more of your shape there. I kind of cut off a little, I missed a spot here, so I'm going to thicken my line just a little. And we're going to put a bottom on the fin. And then in your fin, you need a few lines. So we're going to put one line, two lines, just like that. When you're done your fin, we will go to our tail fin and we'll outline it again. And you don't need to go all the way in, just kind of stop at the bottom, kind of where the two fins meet each other. And then come out and outline it there. Now I didn't quite go to the edge, so I'm going to thicken my line a little bit, and that's kind of a way you can fix some of these edges up a little. And then again, you'll see I have little lines in there to show the fins kind of go up and down. They have a ribbing to them. That's why we're doing these little lines here, just like that. And again, on the bottom. So they sort of curve similarly to the edge of your fin tail. The next step would be to do the side fin. So come out from the edge on the top and make it come to a point. And then again on the bottom, outline it and make it come to a point. Now my paint isn't quite dry there in some spots, so hopefully my marker is still okay. So do again, make sure it's nice and dry. And I'm gonna do some lines on here again. So there we go, we've got our side fin on our fish. And the next step is the eyeball. And I outlined it here, so I'm gonna do an outline all around the edge. And if you do get paint, you just wipe it off a little bit there. And I need to do a pupil in the center. And another way, of course, you could do the pupil is to paint it with your black paint. I didn't end up using any black paint on this one, this project, but maybe you chose the color black, I'm not sure. And this actually, I've used pencils before. I need a very tiny, tiny white dot, and I'm gonna do that. Get my pencil with some white paint on it. Just put my little white dot on the same edge where we have our bubbles. Oh, my light went a different direction because I put my canvas upside down. Well, that's okay. Mistakes happen and you can get creative with that. So I guess my fish is swimming towards the light, which is further down. So maybe there are sea divers underneath the sea today. I'm not sure what my fish is doing and what's glowing on the bubbles. So, you know, when you create artwork, it might not always turn out the way you planned. Sometimes you can make something creative out of it, and sometimes it'll turn out exactly the way you want it, and you'll love it more than you thought that you would. So I love making artwork that's so unique, and the other thing is you can learn from what you've made. So I hope you love the fish that you created today, or that you learned something new. And I hope you know that God loves you in your uniqueness. All our fishes will be different. All of you are different. And God loves all of you. So I'd like to thank you for joining me again today. Please send in pictures of your fish and any of your other art projects this week. And I would love to share those with other people so they can see the amazing artworks that you've been creating. Thanks again for joining me, and have a wonderful rest of your day.